Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today is May 1st. We're doing government and social stories. I say with complete satisfaction that I am correct.
What was that date?
21st.
Did I say, what did I say?
May 1st.
Oh, I meant 21st.
You were 20 days off.
It's the 21st.
May is quickly evaporating.
Yes. I have nothing else to say. Just I'm going to stare into the...
You can tell Wendell doesn't feel good because he didn't take the opportunity.
May the 4th be with you. I'm just barely hanging on.
Well, the 4th nor the Force will be with you because both of those are fantasies. But there is one thing that will be with you at all times if you are driving your car. And that is your car's manufacturer going through your pockets and listening to you and spying.
Ars Technica's headline, is the connected car's illegal data collection and use now on the FTC's radar. The FTC here is really disappointing because most of their filing is tantamount to, if you're going to do this, make sure that no one knows that you're doing this.
They do have
it's a really nice way of putting it.
A great line at the end, which is like all that for this little piece of common sense, but you're not enforcing it.
But it's on their radar. They'll get to it in like 5 years.
There's no reason they should have that because they're going to lose it. It's like, going to get leaked.
Can consumers opt out of that? Yeah, sure. If you want to buy an 09 Corolla.
Hard to find. And Section 230 continues to be a battleground. Of course, this being the election year, this is the time that we must have the most bitter fights about these kinds of things.
A bipartisan bill is looking to end Section 230 protections for tech companies. Basically, if a company is protected from what users post online, that also means that the company can manipulate what other users see through the algorithm and also have immunity. And they're looking to strip that away.
But they're also, I think, looking to strip away people's ability to voice their concerns on the internet.
Yeah.
Ultimately. I'm not saying that nefarious things aren't happening with social media companies. We all know that they are. And nefarious things are happening with the telecoms. I know, it's shocking. But really, it's happening.
I thought the Ars Technica headline was a little inflammatory, but it says AT&T paid bribes to get two major pieces of legislation passed, the U.S. government says.
That's called lobbying, and it's okay.
Yeah, when you unpack it, this absolutely was. But the crazy thing is, we've reported on this kind of thing before. Like, AT&T is doing all kinds of this kind of stuff. And the last time they got caught, according to the article, they paid $23 million in fines, but that was still worth it. It was like, oh, you mean we could just write you a check? We would have done that to begin with.
It's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
The indicator that it might have been more than that is the fact that the lawmaker in question is being indicted on corruption charges.
That's so weird.
So they, this was all about like, hey, we really wouldn't want to keep maintaining these copper lines. We want to just sunset those, but there's this pesky law that says we have to give these people 911 service. Perhaps that could change. Shockingly, it changed.
I would be all for sunsetting those copper lines if every building, outhouse, and tool shed had a fiber optic line, as was promised to us 40 years ago.
They didn't have to offer that as part of the bribe. They offered $22,000 in bribery, which, my God, the ROI.
We're going to have a story about that later where AT&T is buying satellite companies, and I'm going to go full fire mode on that.
Well, the CHIPS Act, the money is rolling out. We know that Intel got some. All the other major companies got some. We got fabs coming, but there are other ways that they're using it. And these ways are to gain control of things that we foolishly lost.
Biden admin shells out $120 million to return CHIPS startup to U.S. ownership. This is part of the billions of dollars of the CHIPS Act. But basically, this is a fabless company that was designing some interesting chips. And it's like, hey, bring that back to the U.S.
Well, it's still in the U.S., but we now have majority shareholder status again. So more control.
I hope that works out for those people. I mean, AMD acquired that fabless startup company, and that worked out fabulously well for AMD. Wait, that was like way pre-Zen days even.
Fabulously? Well, the one thing that's not fabulous is, let's say that you bought a Tesla in, I don't know, 2020. Probably not feeling very good about that now, are you? Because all of the EVs are dropping in prices, and a lot of people are saying that Chinese flooding the market with them has something to do with that.
The U.S. has suggested that the possibility of penalties if production of Chinese electric vehicles moves to Mexico, it could be a thing. Well, if you, like, the thing that this headline leaves out, it assumes that you already know that Biden is proposing massive tariffs on Chinese imports of solar panels and electrical components, which is weird because just a couple of years ago he's like, that's oddly xenophobic. It's like, that's so strange that things have, how the turntables turn.
You almost got it there.
One of the things that we've discussed in the past that feels like the distant past now, it wasn't that long ago, was the whole concept of the word unlimited, which in my mind has always had a very basic definition, but in the telecom's minds,
just unlimited, right?
Doesn't fit that because it's unlimited to a point, or it's unlimited with these features and whatever. Maybe now we're going to get back to a more base meaning.
3 carriers to pay $10 million to settle claims of false unlimited advertising. So on Verizon, if you went over by just 5 gigabytes in one billing month and they had 7,000 customers that did that in each state, they're going to be way past $10 million. So it seems like they got a good deal.
Again, it's just the cost of doing business. They don't really scale those fines, do they?
And do you think this will stop them from doing it again?
No.
I don't think they. Also, unclear whether consumers will get any of that money. So you paid the profit that was less than the fine, but you also get nothing from the fine.
Mission accomplished.
And AI. It's moving at a pace that is frankly startling. It's concerning. Washington, they don't move at that pace. I don't know if you've noticed who runs this country, but it takes them longer to stand up than we get between versions of ChatGPT. But now they're like, wait a minute, have we missed something here? Do we need to catch up?
Senators urged $32 billion in emergency spending on AI after finishing a year-long review. So this reads like we need to accelerate AI so that we are the first, so that we can control it, because the first AI rules all the other AIs, which is probably not untrue. But that's what Yudkowsky's organization was supposed to do. And he's gone very anti-AI in the last couple of years because there are, from his point of view, there are randos that are far ahead of what he was able to do with his organization. So
they do, in the article, they mention that mostly the people in Washington who are in charge of AI are what they call doomers.
Yeah.
Which, there's a valid fear there for sure.
Yeah, but that's like, as doomer as we are on the other side of that, which is wild.
I'm not worried about the rate of advancement. I just want to make sure that I'm not locked out from access while the government gets to use it.
Raytheon brand everything because they're the first one to get the AI. Yeah, that's a dark future.
And we have our logo page of the week, but you can tell that the FBI did this on their own because this page is not actually blanketed with logos. It's just the one. It's a rare thing to see.
BreachForums is now under the control of the FBI. We've reported on stories from BreachForums in the past, and this is where you would go to sell your leaked data or brag that you had broken in somewhere you're not supposed to be.
The gradient text is a nice touch.
Well, I was going to ask you to rate.
I would give this one a much higher rating than most of the time than the other ones we see because it's not just full of logos, like just vomited all over the page. It's a dark mode, which is nice. You don't get blinded when you go there.
Was the pink color scheme from BreachForum, do you think? Or
That's what I was curious about that. Like, why would you spend the time to make the gradient text otherwise?
Well, the FBI interns have to have something to do, don't they? And is anonymous money always money laundering? And if I'm not personally attempting to launder money, I'm just working on the interface for one of these things, am I a money launderer? It seems the answer is yes.
Tornado Cash developer found guilty of laundering $1.2 billion of crypto. This was in a Dutch court, I think. 5 years in prison.
I may have missorted this one. They argued, of course, that he personally did not do any of this stuff. He just worked on the system, but that didn't fly in court. They say he's still a launderer.
It's weird because nobody has investigated the whole HSBC thing where they modified the size of teller windows to accept duffel bags of cash.
I think he's feeling better because he hit that one right on cue. Do we have that one on the...
on the bingo? I don't think. Maybe.
And this is a little bit terrifying. Oh, wait, no, this is not the one. Oh, we got another story. I bet I should have sorted these together. But, well, different country. But drones. We know that they're there. We know they're cheap. And we know that they can now kill easily and autonomously.
Don't think about it.
So what should we do about that?
Business Insider's headline is the U.S. jamming technology is significantly worse than Russia's, ex-Pentagon officials warn. Okay.
I find that hard to believe, considering how bad a lot of Russia's equipment is, but maybe it's true.
But they're getting trial by fire, literally.
Yeah.
So, although I can't imagine that we're not also over there on those battlefields studying everything.
I would kick the laser stuff into high gear because you can just use the lasers to melt them from far away.
You probably would have a tough time getting enough of a battery supply to use lasers from drones now.
No, I mean from the ground. You just point it in the sky and just.
No, what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
To counter that, it would be drones with lasers, but I think that'd probably not be feasible yet. And here's one that is just really just a copy paste of everything that we've seen before. The EU has already laid out these cases, and it's just up to the U.S. states to go and pick the little pieces they like, and make their own recipe.
Arizona accuses Amazon of unfair, deceptive business practices. To save you the trouble of reading it, it's for two things. One, that it's hard to cancel Amazon Prime, and two, that the search algorithm has gone to crap. They might actually have to disclose how their search algorithm works, which will not look good. The Amazon people are very angry, and they said that the Attorney General for the state didn't even read their stuff. But if you've ever used Amazon, you know how hard it is to cancel Prime.
And the buy now box was another thing.
Yeah.
Like, who decides when you have third-party sellers and Amazon, who goes into the buy now box? It's usually Amazon. And another one that we've seen over and over, and yet we keep seeing it.
Microsoft Teams is facing more antitrust lawsuits in Europe. I'm all for anything as long as they fix the mute icon not working, because it's like, you're muted, you're unmuted. It doesn't.
Literally just anything about Teams working.
It shows you that you're muted. You're not.
And that could be a big problem.
Yeah.
And some people in our comments will be like, oh, Teams works fine for me. I don't know, maybe they're not logged into a lot of devices, but I feel like I constantly have issues where like I'll send a message and it just doesn't send, or it'll send it way later than what I anticipated.
Just universally the least helpful kind of comment that anybody can make.
Yeah.
It's like,
it works for me.
When you say there's a problem and somebody chimes in with, I don't have any problems.
Yeah. It's wild too, because if you kill Teams, like you do the task kill thing and kill it and restart it, the mute button does work, but then after about 10 or 15 minutes, it stops working. And I really have to wonder what type of software engineering Microsoft is doing, because clearly their automated tests are testing if mute works. And it's like, oh yeah, mute works and it totally doesn't. But then like after 10 minutes, it stops working. Like that is a special level of software engineering fail.
It's the AI being like, I'm not getting enough data from this participant. Turn that back on. Now, Krista, we've learned that you believe that the correct age for a phone, a smartphone for a child, 16 years old. Are you sticking with that?
When you start driving, I would say. Like when you're leaving the house and you're out or not around your parents, I could see getting a smartphone.
Is it
or
not,
a phone, just in general.
Is it not your 16th birthday, but in fact the day that you get your driver's license?
I think I turned 16 and got one. But that was because I was starting to ride around with my friends who already had their licenses.
Well, the reality, I'm afraid, is far different.
Almost a quarter of kids aged 5 to 7 have smartphones. If the AI can also teach them to not be dumb, I'm all for this.
I don't know if it can.
I don't think that's...
Sorry, teach them to not be ignorant. You
Are,
can't fix stupid.
Would this improve their reading, do you think?
Maybe.
Well, it depends on what they're using it for, right? Like, I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing for kids to have access to tech. It's just a lot of times it's unfettered access, and it's just like stupid games, like, you know, and they're not learning anything.
I had a cousin in an unfortunate situation, and he was smart, but he had a lot of trouble reading because I think attention deficit problems. And so I got him a Game Boy Pocket and Pokemon and Zelda, and his reading improved.
RPG reading. He's got to look at all those text boxes.
I also had that experience where, like, I wasn't. I think I might have been in college at that point, and like I saw him for the first time in a long time. We hadn't seen each other, and we were talking about video games, and I was like, "Oh yeah, man, Final Fantasy VIII," and he was like, "Oh, all that reading."
Oh.
It's like an interactive story. It's kind of cool.
Now we have seen time and time again where these despotic countries, whenever the people get unruly, the first thing they do is turn off the internet. Now, of course, we would never see that in a Western democracy, right? We are certainly above all of that.
France bans TikTok in island territory after pro-independence protests turn violent. This is in New Caledonia, which was only recognized under the French rule since 1853. The headline leaves out, not 1853, 1957 was when they got full recognition.
I got to admit my ignorance here. I did not realize that France had this colony still.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
It turns out there's a lot of nickel there.
Oh, so they've not relinquished it.
Maybe we should send the people in Puerto Rico this article and it's like, look, you got it pretty good, even though we don't give you hurricane relief.
Oh, wait, are we telling us, like, stay in line or we're turning off your TikTok? And this is the one I was thinking about earlier when we were talking about the drone warfare. And most of that is done through electromagnetic attacks. If this gets into the wrong hands, can you imagine the terror that we will be subjected to?
UK police could get Ghostbusters-style backpack devices to halt ebike getaways. That's this week. Next week, it's to shut down your TV that doesn't have a license.
So this is a small electromagnetic pulse. I don't know how they... Can you make that a beam somehow?
Not really.
I mean, it's just going to like...
It's going to hit everything.
The electronics in the e-bike is usually like a Raspberry Pi or something that is just cobbled together from garbage.
Can't they just do an old-fashioned backdoor? Like, I don't understand.
But what they point out is these convince the bike somehow that they're overheating.
Oh, so it shuts down.
And it's a self-harm. It's like, it's like a thermal shutdown. But apparently these can also be used, they're hoping, on regular combustion engine cars. Which, like I say, as soon as the wrong person gets a hold of one of these, that's going to be a terrible situation.
See also Flipper Zero.
Yeah, some kids on an overpass just shutting down cars. And those kids, they do have a lot of problems, and some of their problems could come back to the fact that they are hopelessly addicted and controlled by the algorithm.
Concerns over addicted kids spur probe into Meta and its use of dark patterns. Yeah, it's a little late to the party there, folks. The EU is looking to extract money from Meta. I'm just beating this camel until there's just nothing left.
They're not wrong, though. I mean, it is an addictive product, right? We do control other addictive things for kids, but selectively because we don't control sugar. And boy, the old NSO group and all of their spy-wearing stuff, they really downplayed it, and they were like, listen, we don't sell it to people without good reason. We have all these things, and now we're finding out more and more that that was never the case. Spain
has reopened its Israeli spy probe, sharing information with France. This is, once again, the same software that we always talk about that Apple's not doing anything about. This is a Reuters headline, too.
So Spain had a case, and it was sort of languishing, but then France was like, oh, hey, look, we got some data about that too. And Spain took a look at France's data, and they were like, oh, my God, we have to open this back up. This was far more egregious than we thought.
Oops.
Oh, there it goes. That's
CNBC. Fine. And the trade war / perhaps something more between the U.S. and China is still simmering, perhaps a low boil, and some companies are starting to get more and more concerned.
Microsoft offers relocation to hundreds of China-based AI staff amid U.S.-China tech tensions. This reeks of Operation Paperclip, but it's really wild how Microsoft can go to the State Department and say, hey, can we relocate a couple of hundred people over here? And the State Department's like, let's work together on that.
But it wasn't just the U.S. U.S., Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. So that shows how powerful Microsoft is with all those governments. They're like, hey, we want to bring some Chinese over here good at AI. And they're like, sure, yeah.
7 to 800. I think importing people that mean well and are smart is generally a good idea.
You don't think the CCP made some counteroffers? It's like, yeah, you're going to go, but we're going to give you this special phone. And that brings us to AI and the fact that the U.S. and China, you say, are number 1 and number 2 in the AI game right now. And that is a bit of an arms race.
U.S. kicks off AI safety talks with China.
This is a great image.
It's like, hey, are we going to use these for fighter jets or not? That's a story later. What about, other weapons platforms? What about for automated attacks of our infrastructure? We know you're in our water supply. You know that we're in basically all your other stuff.
We're in your base.
What do we do?
Well, what we do is eventually we just let the robots fight it out, right? That's the only thing that's left to do.
We're going into the future of battle bots, where no humans are harmed.
But China has warned the U.S. about the potential use of fighter jets piloted by artificial intelligence. They somehow got their hands on the fighter jet testing results we reported on last week, and they were not amused.
Because they don't have it yet. Or maybe they do and they're not telling us.
Oops, excuse me.
And poor Hong Kong. Wow. Remember in the early days of when we started doing this, we covered the Hong Kong thing and there was hope.
There's no hope.
It was like, oh, the people are going to stand up. It's good to see.
I mean, and they did, but then they got crushed.
And the crushing continues.
YouTube agrees to remove videos of banned Hong Kong protest song because the courts in Hong Kong ruled that the song is a weapon.
It doesn't...
Big win for the Bard class, but not for the rest of us.
I don't think it specifically lyrically mentions like revolution or anything, right? No, it's
just a symbol.
It's kind of like the blank paper movement.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't care what you say, as long as you're saying something, it's wrong. And the Dell breach. Well, did you guys do that story last week? I can't remember.
Yeah.
We've learned a little bit more about it, which you might have had these details. I don't remember.
Threat actors scraped Dell support tickets, including customer phone numbers. Yeah, this is just as bad. It's continuing to get bad. If you were a Dell customer,
badder.
Randos have your info.
And this fella is on one of the hacker forums trying to actively sell this stuff right now.
Fabulous.
And I think we've given this pro tip several times, but you probably should not take nude photos on your smartphone because all the backups, the clouds and stuff like that, you really have to, it's never going to go away. And it's never more illustrated than now. iOS 17.5 bug, reported by Mac Rumors to be troubling, which I would agree with, is resurfacing old deleted photos. What are these doing on your phone? In some cases, the photos were kind of old. Yeah, like as old as like 2010 or something, right?
Yeah.
Which is insane. Also, how depressing that you have to look at your 2010 nude self and be like, oh, man, I've really let myself go.
Look how hot I was.
We often, you remember the movie about the MIT kids who learned how to count cards? Often they're too smart for their own good. Like they're smart in terms of the numbers, but in terms of like how that plays out in society, not so much.
MIT students stole 25 million in seconds by exploiting ETH blockchain bug, the Department of Justice
No one
says.
will notice, they thought.
Yeah, they probably would have been okay if they'd given the money back. They did not.
They had to do with the validations. Like before between the validation and the money changing hands, they were able to grab it. And then the people noticed and they were like, hey, give that back. And they instead moved it out of that wallet and tried to ignore them.
Oops.
And we've talked a lot about the people who are getting stalked by the tracking devices and the fact that both Google and Apple kind of just ignored it. They're not quite ignoring it, but they are taking perhaps small steps.
Apple and Google deliver support for unwanted tracking alerts in iOS and Android. Basically, this is Android can now detect the Bluetooth smart beacons, the Apple tracking tokens.
And there's a standard. You remember what it was called? Oh, yeah. Detecting unwanted location trackers, DULT. So this is a standard that if you make location trackers, I guess you can include, and phones will know to alert you if one happens to be following you around closely and doesn't belong to you. What would you do if you found out there's a tracker on you? Other than just dealing with a tracker, like now you know somebody's after you. Like what do you do?
I feel like I'd become really paranoid, and I'm already kind of paranoid. It'd probably get worse.
Well, that's not really an action item.
No, yeah, just be more paranoid. Stay noided.
And also be paranoid about the deepfakes because they're here.
The CEO of the world's biggest ad firm targeted in a deepfake scam. They were not successful.
Did that Katy Perry picture get him too?
Yeah,
her at the Met Gala.
She was like, hey, I need Apple gift cards.
He was like, well.
Now, the guy who figured, I don't know if it's a guy or a gal, but the person who figured this out was the person who was being targeted to actually like try to reveal information. I don't think they wanted money. They were like, hey, we need to start a new business. Give me all these numbers and confirmations and stuff. That person was smart enough to like alert somebody else. Do you think they were rewarded in any way?
Probably. It sounded like they were in the article, but
pizza party in the conference room.
We got you this keychain.
Oh, thanks.
We reported on this last week, but this has a lot more details.
Oh, okay. Well, no introduction then.
Google Cloud accidentally deletes UniSuper's online account due to unprecedented misconfiguration. They deleted, like UniSuper did a lot of stuff right. They were in multiple availability zones. They had different backups in multiple availability zones. Google nuked everything. Everything.
They did have robust backups, though. But it took a week.
Well, the robust backups were at the dude's house because he was paranoid about cloud services.
Aptly so. And Google, when they are not mistakenly taking things down for security reasons, they are taking things down for real security reasons, but they haven't told us enough about them.
Google Chrome gets a third emergency update in a week as the attacks continue. See, this is what we should be seeing out of Apple with the Pegasus malware, but we do not.
I don't know if they updated these with actual CVEs. Oh, yeah, there's an update, but I missed most of it, so I can't tell you about it. I'm sorry. And SSH, boy, is SSH looking less and less.
Oh, I forgot about that picture on this article.
Of the code.
It's a very literal.
Yeah. The code at the door.
Yeah.
Linux maintainers were infected for 2 years by SSH-dwelling backdoor with a huge reach. You should check this out. It's interesting.
Does the code have a flashlight it's shining in
I
there?
know. It's like the lighting is not correct.
Yeah.
Also, the texture on that wall. Very Doom era FPS.
Kernel.org was among one of the places intermittently compromised.
Since 2009. One day we're just going to find out that nothing's ever been secure. It's all been an illusion.
I mean, shouldn't we just treat everything like that at this point?
Well, you should certainly treat your email provider like that, no matter what they advertise. Because Proton Mail, in their defense, I don't think they had a choice here. But that's the point, right? Companies don't have a choice.
Proton Mail provided user data that led to an arrest in Spain. It's actually kind of impressive how little they were able to provide, though.
But they were able to take what Proton Mail was forced to give them and, what was it, an Apple account?
Yeah.
And, you know, match that up somehow with an Apple account. I don't know if it's like a username or an email or whatever. And then they were able to get somebody. This was like a climate activist or something, right? I don't know what they did. But
their email's gone.
The authorities really wanted to find them. Oh, more than their email's gone. I think their freedom is on the way out as well.
Rip. Well, that's it for this episode, chat room. Post something you're excited about, something you're looking forward to in the comments below.
You know what? I noticed Pop-Tart comments from last week. Because you're eating Pop-Tarts. Do you know there's a Pop-Tart movie coming out?
Wow.
It's about, like, apparently Post and Kellogg's were both trying to come up with, like, the breakfast of the future.
Oh. Someone's making a movie about that.
Actually, I don't think they're making it. I think it's already out there.
The origin of cornflakes might have been more interesting.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but I think the Kellogg's legal team would be a little bit more interested in not having that out there.
All right. That's it, chat. Bye.